Hi there, it's Miss Nina, speech language pathologist, and in today's parent coaching video, I want to talk to you about the idea of baby talk, or child talk, or parentese, or motherese, or whatever other term you might have heard, referring to how adults can simplify their language when they're speaking with a young child to help their understanding and their language development. And in this, I want to share some strategies that you can consider about how can I support my child's language development. And I also want to share some of the research behind this and some of the current research that's actually been shifted to thinking about maybe there's such a thing as simplifying too much. Now we'll get into that. But first I want to just make it clear that the baby talk of little babies is different than what I'm talking about of the baby talk, child talk, parent talk to a little bit older children. The baby talk with little babies, a couple days, weeks, months old, that they're just taking everything in, that's all wonderful. When you ooh goo 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 gaga baby in the baby's face, that's promoting a social engagement, interest in that connection with another person, and all of those are precursors and foundational skills for communication, because communication is an interaction between people. And so they're looking at your face and, oh, that sounds really interesting. Their ears perk up because you're saying things in a different way. That's all wonderful. Now, what I want to talk about is actually when your child is older and you have to say certain things to your child and they have to follow some instructions, or you got to make sure that they're learning some new ideas, receptive language, expressive language. How can you support your child so that they're understanding what you're saying? And that's the idea behind parentese or child talk, baby talk that I want to talk about right now. So if we're thinking about the question, do you want an apple? Now, that's a very simple question, but sometimes it goes even more simplified to where a parent or adult might say, you want apple? Or we might even cut out the you, want apple? Or we might use the child's name instead. Sam want apple? And there's a couple different variations of that, but we can see that that's very simplified. And the recent studies and research are actually showing us that those grammatical markers, like the do as a question word, or the an apple as an article, or a preposition sometimes, are really important for our brain to process language, because now it's able to categorize these content words or the grammar words, because we naturally use more stress or more emphasis on these content words when we're speaking. Just naturally. Right now when I'm talking to you, I'm stressing the main words here, and some of the grammar words have a lot lower emphasis in my speech. And so when kids hear that, when they're developing language, their brain starts to process, and their ears will perk up when they hear these content words that they know actually have the meaning behind it. But if we delete all of those grammar words, then the child doesn't have the opportunity to then have that ability to hear the difference. And there's actually a lot of information in those grammar words. If it's talking about verb tense, like future or past, or if it's talking about plural, like if we have an S on the end of a word, all of those things are indicators of the concept. And children naturally, when they hear those, are able to anticipate, or they're able to think and prepare themselves for what that concept might be with the grammar words. And so if we delete them, they don't have that opportunity to plan and to predict what that concept might be. And all of those are really necessary for sequencing, beginning, middle, end, or their literacy skills or pre-literacy skills for reading and writing, which is all tied into academic and learning skills for lifelong learning. So that's what research is showing us, that it actually might be too simplified. You don't have to worry about cutting out everything and just saying you want apple or want apple, because your child will naturally process and understand, do you want an apple? And it's important for them to hear all of those words in that question. Now you can get way too complex, and if you're saying, do you want an apple? I have a green apple, a red apple, do you want a Granny Smith? Blah, blah, blah. That's too much, and that's bombarding the child that they're just going to kind of shut off, and they're not able then to process those main words. So some of the strategies we can do for simplifying is thinking about one question and stop. I don't need to have two questions in there. Do you want an apple? Or do you want some grapes? Or do you want an orange? And then they say yes. What is the child saying yes to? Maybe they're replying to the first question because they needed a little bit more time to process. These are new concepts. This is the first time they're laying down these skills. So a simplification strategy is thinking about one and done. Say one thing, one sentence, one question, and then wait. How can I provide that space for my child to process and then to be able to respond accordingly? You can also emphasize a little bit more some of the main words, especially if you're showing new vocabulary. Like if you're saying, oh, look, this is a cactus. A cactus. And so you're emphasizing the new vocabulary word if they've never heard the word cactus before, but you're not cutting out the grammar words here. You can repeat the main vocabulary word, cactus, cactus, and then that's going to help with the learning, exposure, repeated, and understanding, but you're not cutting everything. That's the idea here. Children will naturally speak this way as they continue to develop their language and start expressive language. So they might say like, oh, cookie, want cookie, me want cookie, or Nina want cookie. That's how a child speaks, and that's the way their brain is able to expressively get that idea across. But remember, their receptive language, their understanding is much higher than their expressive language skills. So it doesn't mean that we have to speak to them that way for them to understand. They're understanding at a higher level than what they're able to say in the early years of development. And the other thing I want to mention is this idea that I talked about of using the child's name instead of the you. So yes, the you, me, I concepts are confusing, because if I say, do you want an apple? You don't reply, you want apple. You have to change it now and say, I want apple, to understand that concept. So sometimes we get rid of that, and some adults might say, does Sam want an apple? And the tricky thing with that is that that's not really natural speech. We don't talk in the third person. I don't say, oh, hello, Nina wants to talk to you about simplified language. Nina thinks it's a good idea. That's not how we speak. We have this referral to the personal. I think this, you think this, and it does change, and it is confusing for a child, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't expose them to that. We can say their name when it's a natural way, right? You could say, Sam, Sam, come to dinner. Where are you? Sam. That's a natural way for us to use our child's name. They're going to hear their name and learn their name. Even referring to yourself, right? If I say, Mommy wants you to put on your shoes, it's a little bit awkward. And sometimes kids hear this, they know this, but the idea is that we're teaching them and we're modeling them to what the natural communication is, so that they can try to imitate that. So when we're modeling something that's not the same way of natural speech, that's what they're learning. Okay, so we talked about a couple different concepts today. Child talk or Parentese, basically simplifying language. And I want to just summarize that there is such a thing as oversimplifying. We don't need to cut out all the grammar words. I don't need to just say the verbs and the nouns. More cookie, your turn, Bubbles, or give me ball. We can put in the other grammar words because it's important for kids to hear that so they hear the differences in stress. So, give me the ball. Pick it up. All of those ideas are helping the child learn the differences and prepare and to be able to predict some of the concepts behind those grammar markers. And that when we're thinking about the you or the I, that we don't always need to just use the child's name to say like, oh, Sam want cookie. You want a cookie. That's the idea there. How can we model it with natural speech that would be understood by anybody because we're showing them the example? Okay, that's all for today. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.